Senator Hoeven.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Chairman, you talked a little bit about LedgerX, but is LedgerX the only part of FTX that you actually have regulatory authority over? Are there other aspects of the company that you have regulatory authority over, or just LedgerX?
Senator, in terms of direct authority, LedgerX is the only entity that we have direct oversight over. There is a commodity pool operator, I believe, that's called Ledger, it might be Ledger Prime, and it is mainly regulated by the National Futures Association, which is a self-regulatory organization, NSRO. So there is an indirect relationship, but I did want to mention that to you in full transparency. But to answer your question directly, the single entity that we regulate and have the most direct relationship with is LedgerX.
And what is the status financially of LedgerX at this point in terms of assets and obligations, and in terms of your ability to make sure that it retains those assets to cover its obligations?
It is solvent. It is operational. I know where the money, the customer money is on a daily basis through direct communications with both LedgerX and the custodian, which holds the digital assets and the money, the fiat money. The company has financial resources for up to 12 months on a rolling basis. There are books and records that we can examine on a daily basis.
And are you able to, with the authorities you have, make sure that dollars, resources, assets are not siphoned off away from LedgerX? I mean, you're telling us that LedgerX is your responsibility based on the authorities you have for this larger company, FTX, right?
Correct.
You're saying that it is solvent, it is operating, it has assets to meet its obligations.
Correct.
Are you able to make sure it stays that way so that those resources are not dissipated to these other entities of the larger company?
So I would say absent fraud, we are able to do that. And I think particularly in this moment in time where the majority, the 130 entities are going through bankruptcy, and there is a laser focus from John Ray, the current CEO of FTX, and there's a lot of scrutiny about LedgerX and the other entities. It would require a significant act to have money move out of that entity without approval, or that would violate our laws and take them out of compliance and put that entity in any jeopardy.
So you feel you are doing everything you need right now to try to maintain the solvency of LedgerX?
It has been the #1 focus since we learned about the potential for the bankruptcy, is to make sure customer property at the LedgerX entity, the CFTC registered entity, stays exactly where it is. And that's why we're having daily communications with both the custodian and the registered entity.
Well, and this goes to my broader question is, okay, then to properly regulate crypto, you have to start with defining, are you regulating the commodity aspect of it, the securities aspect of it, or the currency aspect, correct? So first, how do you define it? And then how do you determine who regulates or has that jurisdiction? And then third, how do you coordinate it between yourself, the SEC, the Federal Reserve, Treasury, so forth?
Senator, I'll first say from a potential currency or payments element, and this probably goes to stable coins, if it is in fact, or a product is used as more of a payments or currency element, it would be outside of the CFTC's remit. In terms of the security or commodity question, you and I think maybe have had this discussion before, but it really goes to the heart, at least today, of the traditional legal analysis of what a security is and what a commodity is. That said, there are unique characteristics of these digital commodities. It will require hard work and collaboration between us and the SEC to further define what characteristics make up a digital commodity and a digital security. The DCCPA exempts securities. I've said this before, the DCCPA and other similar bills are not a power grab. It is filling a gap in the commodity cash market. If we don't fill the gap, there will be fraud and there will be customer losses in the future. I am confident the CFTC, the SEC, I'm committing to you that we will work together. We will figure out a path forward to have a reasonable, productive, and effective means to figure out what is a security token and what is a commodity token and who should regulate.
How do you do that? How do you do that with all those other agencies, make that determination and sort out the jurisdiction and make sure that you have the authorities and then apply that not only from the standpoint that you're dealing domestically in a global market with all these different products. How do you do that?
Senator, we've done it historically with futures products and swaps products, but just to give you a hypothetical and how we play this out, if the DCCPA or a similar bill were passed into law and I had authority to oversee these cash markets, I think the first steps that would happen is I would speak with my counterpart, Chairman Gensler. We would have our teams get together and start to flesh out a framework for what are the main characteristics of securities tokens, what are the main characteristics of commodity tokens, and then just work through more, granular details of what unique characteristics are. And, we have, I think, on the biggest exchange in the U.S., 200 plus tokens being traded. We would have to go through each token and figure out what are the characteristics and is it a security or commodity. That sets precedent. That is the benchmark and the foundation for the future. It's a process we've done in the past and we can continue to do it in the future.
So should this legislation, whether it comes out of this committee or banking or one of the other committees of jurisdiction, have some kind of clearinghouse mechanism like you often have in commercial or in financial markets to sort that out in order for all this to work?
So I will say this is I want to impart on you that we can do this, but if that is something you're interested in, I would certainly welcome the opportunity to work with you. The balance that we always have to strike with statute versus regulations is, especially in an industry like this, I need a steer and direction from you. I need prescription to give me a clear path forward of what my mandate is, but it shouldn't be too prescriptive to the extent that the technology can outrun the law, because it's going to be a lot easier for me to change rules through the public comment process than obviously you to change the law.
But it does go to exactly what we've been talking about here, and that's looking at the legislation before this committee to make sure that it does all the things it needs to do, not only so you can enforce the crypto aspects under your jurisdiction, but so that you can coordinate with the other financial agencies that are going to need to be involved to deal with crypto on a broad basis, not only in this country but globally.
Absolutely, Senator. And I think especially given the circumstances that we're in today and what happened in the past few weeks, that elevates the need to just take a fresh look and to see where there may be gaps, where we can strengthen the bill. But I would say this, strengthening the bill and filling the gaps is one thing. We need to move forward as soon as possible. We don't want this to happen again in the next few months and have the risk of customers losing money because of these gaps.
Thank you.
Thank you.